If you follow Bitcoin or crypto in general, then you probably know who Robert Kennedy Jr. is, the presidential candidate who is all gung ho on Bitcoin. And I think that this is going to be a path of the future that people or politicians are going to have to start picking a side, probably for Bitcoin. They're going to be really forced into that corner. I think so, but I think that it's a path that's going to go down, and we're starting to see it kind of play out here. And this is a person who seemingly kind of gets Bitcoin, but definitely not all the way, because some of the things he says aren't really on point, but a lot of it is. Like we can see here, he calls Bitcoin the currency of peace, trust, and freedom.
Asset. And when inflation goes crazy, like I saw it in Chile when I was a kid, 2,500% inflation. When inflation gets to these, runaway, it will give them a bailout, and it's going to force the Fed to at least mediate its extravagance. So that's just another kind of one of the many, many reasons that I like Bitcoin. But beside all the freedom issues, is absolutely critical because it's the currency of peace, it's the currency of trust, and it's the currency of freedom.
Now, this is one point where he doesn't quite get it, or he's just trying to use like positive words, right? But Bitcoin is definitely a currency of peace and freedom, but it's not a currency of trust. The whole point of Bitcoin is verify, don't trust. So that part is a little bit off. That's what I mean when he's kind of gets it, but some things he doesn't put on the head, like saying Bitcoin is a currency of trust when it's clearly it's not. That's the whole point of Bitcoin, is not to trust someone. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see someone who is this political person who's obviously older, who's even kind of getting this is pretty good. And he also talked at the Bitcoin conference that happened a couple days ago. I think it ended, but it was going on. He was one of the speakers there, and he had some pretty good things to say about Bitcoin there too. And again, it's kind of interesting to see this politician entering the Bitcoin world here and going into these conferences and understanding and talking on it and getting positive reception, and ultimately at least understanding Bitcoin at least a little bit.
Particularly programmable currency that could be used by governments to enforce, to punish bad behavior in combination with surveillance systems and facial recognition systems, that the government would know when you were doing something wrong and could change your credit card. And this is what's happening in China. So they would only purchase groceries within maybe a 5-minute walk of your home. And I said that hypothetically, and I think 6 weeks after I made that speech, I saw that very thing happen to the truckers in Ottawa.
And then not only does he understand at least a little bit, some points he doesn't really get, not quite there, but he understands Bitcoin at least to a certain extent. He also understands the problems that are coming up against Bitcoin and for kind of the CBDC stuff, where the government wants to control the money even more than it already does. And you see it there, him saying this kind of currency where you're not allowed to spend money outside of a 5-minute radius of where you live is an actual thing that could happen. I think there's even some places that already implement CBDCs and are kind of going down this authoritarian route. But that's something that CBDCs are being sold as like this great thing, and it's going to be amazing technology, and it's the next step. When in reality, once they already get everything out there and CBDCs can control everything, that's when it becomes terrible. When they can control what you can spend your money on, if you can spend your money, if you have to do certain things. If you have too much carbon, then you're not allowed to buy certain meats. You're not allowed to fly on planes or drive here. It's absolutely dystopian, the things that could happen in this type of world. And for a politician to be the one looking at this and saying, well, we probably shouldn't go down that road is, pretty good at least. At least that's something good going on. Because your typical politician would look at that and say, amazing, more power to me, like most of them really do. And talking about politicians, one of the biggest things for Bitcoin that I think would be absolutely massive for governments to have to provide is transparency. And he talks about that too, where you can look onto the blockchain, see where money is coming in from, where it's going out to, and there's no more lying. There's no more opaque there where you can't look into them. So that would be an amazing thing to keep governments honest and actually doing what they say or claim to do.
Bitcoin is a neutral currency, beyond the ability of government or indeed any authority to manipulate. In our current system, nearly all of our transactions are transparent, all right. They're transparent to government and corporations, but their machinations and activities are not transparent to us. They are opaque. The public ledger of Bitcoin makes every transaction transparent to everyone. It might therefore be a harbinger of a future in which the government is transparent to the people, and that would be democracy.
So you can see, touching on it there, where government spending and government money, not a single soul could tell you where the money is going. Not a single person could tell you where all $4 trillion plus are going that the US spends. I mean, you can look right here. The US takes in $4.5 trillion in tax revenue, and they spend $1.4 trillion over that. So they spend over $6 trillion. And not a single person in the government or person whose money they're spending could tell you where all that money is going. Not a single person, not a single one could tell you where every single dollar is actually going. Whereas on Bitcoin, you could absolutely do that. You could actually look on the blockchain, see all the money coming in from here and all the money going out and to where it's going out, whatever address is. So you could be able to see where everything's going. And that would be massively important in keeping governments honest and actually doing what they say they're going to do. We already know all politicians lie. It doesn't matter what side you love, all of them lie. So the best way to force them to be honest is to force them to, because you can't just rely on them to tell you the truth, because they're never going to. And we can leave it on this last clip of him talking about Bitcoin, saying, it's this thing about democracy and stuff, where he gets it still, kind of wrong.
And so I want to thank all of you guys for coming here, and all of you for supporting this. I know everybody is so passionate about Bitcoin, not just because it's a currency, but because it's an exercise in democracy. And when I'm president, I'm going to make sure that you got your own wallet, that you keep your own password, that the government can't interfere with it, that nobody's going to be taxing your electricity 30% and going into your computers and taking those intrusive measurements, and that we can nurture this product at home in America, where it's going to create an infrastructure and create wealth for Americans. So thank you all very much.
So he makes a lot of good points there, a lot of, good promises, or like stuff when he says if he's president and things, of like not taxing electricity on mining and doing these crazy things and basically pushing Bitcoin abroad. Those are all great things to say, and not interfere with wallets and stuff and try and take people's past phrases and everything. But one thing that he does kind of get wrong is saying like Bitcoin exists in a democracy, because democracy basically just means mob rule. It's just whoever has the majority of people voting for it. So the mob rules, even if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And Bitcoin doesn't have that. We've already seen the block wars go down in Bitcoin. That would have been, if Bitcoin was a true democracy, then Bitcoin Cash would have just been Bitcoin. But because there's actually checks and balances and everything going on here, it's not a true democracy. I don't know what you would call it, but it's not just simple mob rule in Bitcoin. At the end of the day, it is good to see someone like this and a politician going out and actually making these points. Now, you do have to take it with a grain of salt, because is he actually meaning it, or is he just trying to do this to get votes? Because obviously people who are in Bitcoin and Bitcoiners are very passionate people. So if someone's speaking like this, you can really rally behind them. Saylor's done it. He's starting to do this. I think it's the mayor in New York or something did this too. And then he abandoned Bitcoin as soon as he got the vote. So you got to ask yourself, is he actually believing in this, or is he just simply doing this to get votes, which is very hard to decipher, because All politicians do that. They will tell you whatever you want to hear to get voted. And as soon as they don't need your vote anymore, they're just going to do whatever they want. So I guess only time will tell what goes on and if he ends up getting elected, if he does stuff with Bitcoin or not. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next video.